Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cycling World. Today we are not talking about distant promises or riders who might arrive one day. Today we are talking about a generation that is already reshaping the present of professional cycling, a group of young riders who represent the future. But from the very beginning, one thing must be said clearly. Not all of them are on the same level. Not all of them are at the same stage. Among the young names to follow, there is Juan Ayuso, the least young of the group, but also the most established. A rider who has already lived with leadership pressure, who understands stage racing, and who knows what it means to carry expectations over an entire season. There is Seixas, a talent still in formation, with enormous upside and a long road ahead, where learning and patience will be key. There is Brennan, power, speed, and modern explosiveness, a rider built for the demands of contemporary racing. And there is Cian Uijtdebroeks, a long-term climber, a project that requires time, stability, and careful development. All of them matter. All of them deserve attention. All of them could shape the next decade of cycling. But there is one rider who no longer fits comfortably into the category of future star. One rider who has already stepped out of that frame and into something bigger. That rider is Isaac del Toro. Del Toro is no longer racing only against his generation. He is racing against the best riders in the world, and that changes the entire conversation. While others are still building their profiles, learning consistency, and discovering their limits, Del Toro has already crossed a threshold that very few riders reach so early. His 2025 season was not a brief flash of brilliance. It was sustained excellence. Race after race, he showed presence, maturity, and competitive weight in the peloton. And the numbers confirmed it. Finishing third in the UCI ranking is not about potential. It is about performance over time, against elite competition, under constant pressure. This is why this discussion cannot treat all young riders equally. This is not a list. It is a hierarchy shaped by reality. Del Toro is not ahead because he might be great one day. He is ahead because he already is. This video begins here, with a generation on the rise, and with one rider who has already arrived. The gap between Isaac del Toro and the rest of the young generation is not built on hype. It is built on evidence, on consistency, on the ability to perform week after week against the strongest riders in the world. Del Toro's advantage is not just talent, it is timing. He has reached elite level earlier than expected, and he has stayed there. What truly separates him is reliability. Many young riders produce brilliant performances, but only occasionally. Del Toro produces them as a baseline. Throughout the 2025 season, he did not rely on perfect scenarios or isolated moments. He competed in different terrains, under different pressures, and still delivered. That kind of stability is extremely rare at his age. Finishing third in the UCI ranking is not a symbolic achievement. It reflects sustained excellence across an entire season. It means scoring points consistently, racing aggressively, surviving the toughest races, and remaining relevant deep into competitions that define the sport. This is not the profile of a rider on the way. It is the profile of a rider already inside the elite. This is where the separation becomes clear. Juan Ayuso is a high-level rider with proven leadership qualities, but his growth has followed a more traditional curve. Seixas is still learning the professional rhythm, building his body and racing instincts. Brennan brings raw power and immediate impact, especially in fast and aggressive races. Cian Uijtdebroeks represents a longer-term project, a climber whose development requires patience and stability. Del Toro, by contrast, no longer belongs to the category of young comparison. His benchmarks are no longer riders his age. They are the best in the world. And that shift changes everything, including how his team must manage him. At UAE Team Emirates, this reality is fully understood. When a rider reaches this level so early, the danger is no longer whether he will succeed. The danger is pushing too hard, too fast. History shows that only one rider reached a similar level at such a young age and sustained it without breaking. That rider was Tadej Pogacar. This comparison is not made lightly. It is a warning. And it explains why Del Toro's next steps will be measured, controlled, and carefully chosen. Because arriving early is impressive. Staying there is the real challenge. When we look closely at this generation, it becomes clear why their trajectories cannot be the same. Talent alone does not define a career. Profile, physical development, Mentality and racing style all shape how and when a rider reaches the top. Comparing them is not about ranking talent. It is about understanding context. Isaac del Toro stands out as the most complete rider of the group. He climbs with ease, handles rolling terrain naturally, and possesses a sharp racing instinct that allows him to read situations rather than react to them. What truly sets him apart is adaptability. He does not need a perfect race scenario. He can wait, attack, defend, and recover within the same race. That versatility is what has allowed him to compete immediately at the highest level. Juan Ayuso represents a different archetype, more structured, more methodical, and closer to the traditional Grand Tour leader profile. His strength lies in control. He manages effort well, limits bad days, and sustains high performance over long stage races. Ayuso may not have Del Toro's unpredictability, but he offers reliability and discipline, qualities essential for leadership in 3-week races. Paul Seixas is still in a formative phase. His physical development, racing intelligence, and tactical awareness are evolving simultaneously. The raw materials are there, particularly for climbing and endurance, but his career is still about accumulation. Kilometres, mistakes, and gradual exposure will determine his ceiling. Matthew Brennan operates in another register entirely. Explosive power, speed, and aggression define his profile. He thrives in high-intensity races, fast finishes, and modern classics where positioning and raw force are decisive. His impact is immediate, but his long-term evolution will depend on whether he can expand beyond that core strength. Cian Uijtdebroeks is patience personified, a pure climber built for long efforts and sustained gradients. His development is slower, but potentially deeper. Riders like him often mature later, and when they do, they become extremely difficult to dislodge in stage races. Seen together, the contrast is obvious. Del Toro is no longer defining his profile. He has already defined it. The others are still shaping theirs. That difference does not diminish their talent. It simply explains why one rider is already racing the present, while the rest are still building toward it. When a rider reaches elite level as early as Isaac del Toro has, the biggest challenge is no longer talent or opportunity. The real challenge is management. History has shown that extraordinary ability can be either multiplied or destroyed by how it is handled. This is why UAE Team Emirates is acting with extreme caution. UAE's approach with Del Toro is not improvised. It follows a blueprint the team knows very well, the same one they used with Tadej Pogacar: protection without hiding, freedom without overload, exposure without obligation. Pogacar was never rushed into carrying the entire project. His leadership grew naturally, season by season, supported by structure rather than pressure. The parallels are obvious. Del Toro already has the level to lead in major races, but UAE understands that leadership is not just about strength, it is about mental resilience, recovery, and long-term consistency. Forcing responsibility too early can shorten careers. Managing it wisely can extend dominance for years. This is why Del Toro's calendar remains selective. Not because he lacks ambition, but because the team wants every appearance to have meaning. Each race is chosen for learning, consolidation, or controlled exposure. There is no need for constant proof. His performances have already spoken. UAE is also acutely aware of the modern cycling environment. Media attention is relentless. Expectations escalate quickly. Young riders are no longer allowed to grow quietly. By controlling Del Toro's progression, the team reduces external noise and internal stress. The goal is not short-term impact. The goal is sustainability. The comparison with Pogacar is unavoidable, but it is also instructive. At a similar age, Pogacar was the only rider operating at this level with such consistency. That historical reference is both a compliment and a warning. UAE knows exactly how rare this situation is, and rarity demands care. Following Pogacar's path does not mean copying it exactly. It means understanding why it worked. Trust in the process, confidence in the rider, and patience when impatience would be easier. UAE is not building Del Toro for one season. They are building him for an era. And in modern cycling, that difference often defines who truly shapes history. When the full picture comes into focus, one conclusion becomes unavoidable. This generation is not moving forward as a single wave. It is advancing in layers. And at the highest layer right now stands Isaac del Toro. Not because of what he might become, but because of what he already is within the global peloton. Others remain on legitimate and promising paths. Juan Ayuso has already crossed into the category of established leader, a rider built for responsibility and long-term consistency. Paul Seixas represents long-term potential, a rider whose ceiling will depend on time, physical maturity and experience. Matthew Brennan brings immediacy, power and impact, while Cian Uijtdebroeks continues a deeper, slower construction aimed at endurance and stage racing. All of them may reach the top, but only one has already arrived. This is why the narrative around Del Toro must be different. He does not need acceleration. He needs protection. And that is exactly why UAE Team Emirates is acting with such restraint. Success at this age is both a gift and a risk. The danger is no longer failure. The danger is excess. History offers a single reference point. At a comparable age, only Tadej Pogacar operated at a similar level with such consistency. That comparison is not hype. It is context. And it explains every decision being made now. Greatness is not defined by arriving early. It is defined by staying relevant for a decade. Modern cycling punishes impatience, burns through talent quickly, and amplifies pressure relentlessly. Managing that reality is now as important as physical ability. Del Toro has already cleared the hardest barrier. He belongs. The next challenge is quieter, harder, and more decisive. Remaining there. Not for one season, but for many. That is where careers are truly shaped. The future always excites. But in this case, the present has already drawn the map. And when that happens, we are no longer watching a promise unfold. We are watching the beginning of a generational shift.